If you're new here, welcome to the alchemy of struggle, baby. So check this out. With this jiu-jitsu competition coming up, I've been thinking about the adrenaline dump, that anxiety that so many of us feel right before getting on the mat. And I personally hate the feeling. I hate that feeling, and I'm sure most people do. So much so that I actually came up with a little routine to basically fix it. I do something that's called an adrenaline audit. And I have learned that you can take this whole adrenaline dump thing that we often worry about when we're going into tournaments and this anxiety stuff, and we can actually weaponize it in our own favor instead of as something that it impedes our performance. So we're going to talk about that on the other side. Welcome to the struggle, baby. All right, so first, let me explain what this is not. This is not about affirmations, positive thinking. Nah, this isn't about thinking positive. This is about thinking more strategically. You have to think about what adrenaline actually is and what it is doing in your body. I always get that feeling that sort of butterflies, the sort of anxiousness, and it's something I think we all get, and even outside of jiu-jitsu. One of the craziest stats out there is that how much more people fear public speaking than they fear death. But I'm not so sure it's the speaking itself that freaks people out. I think what really freaks people out is that feeling of dread. Palms are getting sweaty. They get the queasiness in their stomach. Some people feel like they're just gonna pass out. It's crazy. What some people do is they try to suppress their adrenaline. And I've tried to do that and I didn't have good results. So there was one tournament where I embraced the whole adrenaline thing and I just went all in on it and accepted that it was what it was. And I kind of reframed it. And I won double gold in that competition. Same competition. A year and a half later, I ended up getting choked out on a collar choke. And I actually tried to suppress that feeling because I didn't want to feel it that time. I just wasn't into it. And so I have two results. I have a positive result where I performed extremely well when I embraced it. And then I have a negative result where I basically lost. I don't think suppressing it is a good idea. So we're going to talk about how to turn that around using what's called an adrenaline audit. But first, man, let's talk about what adrenaline actually does. You get a heightened sense of awareness. Your pupils dilate, your vision becomes very focused, your muscles become pumped in preparation for fight or flight. I think the thing that scares people the most is the feeling of uncontrol. It's like your body has just taken on a mind of its own and you have no control of it. And that is so scary. But I've talked a lot about listening to the body while I'm going through this whole Ramadan fasting and training for this jiu-jitsu tournament. I've talked a lot about this. And I think if people just learn to actually listen to their body and listen to the message, they can actually get great benefit out of that feeling of anxiety brought on by this pump of adrenaline piercing through your veins. So what is an adrenaline audit? Remember I talked about metacognition? Thinking about thinking, interrogating your own thoughts, interrogating your own feelings, actually asking yourself, why do I feel the way that I feel right now? Why am I thinking the things that I'm thinking right now? Instead of just reacting, why not ask yourself, what does this actually mean? And that's the adrenaline audit. Think of it as a framework for putting adrenaline into perspective and using it to your advantage. Ask yourself, why does my vision narrow? Why does my body prepare my muscles for some type of action? Why do my pupils dilate? Why do I get that tunnel vision? If you are in a true fight or flight situation, you need those things. You need your muscles to be primed and ready. You need to have extreme focus on what's happening in front of you. And you need that extra pump to give you the energy you need to either get the hell out of there or to fight. And when we go into a jiu-jitsu competition, it is simulated combat. In fact, I'll take it a step further. It's simulated killing. I mean, think of it. What is it that you're doing with the rear naked choke? You're choking someone unconscious unless they tap. And if you hold that choke indefinitely, you will kill that person. So your body is absolutely right to prepare yourself for the worst. This is kind of tricky. So you want to be relaxed in a sense. You want like a controlled chaos. Your body is entering into a chaotic state, but you are going to take control of that chaos. You don't want your adrenaline and your anxiety to run rapid and take over. So the first step in the framework is reframing or renaming what it is that you're feeling. Man, this is so important. So you say it feels like anxiousness or like fear, but is it fear or is it focus in disguise? When you get that shot of adrenaline in you, right before it's time to step on the mat, or the night before it's time to step on the mat, or a couple of days before it's time to step on the mat, the body's doing you a favor. It is preparing you because you need to be laser focused on the person in front of you. You need to be laser focused on the situation at hand. You need a burst of strength and a burst of energy. Something that always, even to this day, sort of surprises me. And you'll hear people talk about this. In a tournament, when you first lock up, people always, this floors me. People always feel a little bit stronger. And they are. Because they have all of this adrenaline pumping through them. They feel stronger because they are stronger. But you feel the same way to them as they feel to you. You feel stronger, faster, and you look a little bit bigger. This is the conversation that I have with myself. This is my body preparing me for battle. And this is what battle preparation feels like. It's supposed to feel this way. This is a good feeling. In fact, if I don't have this feeling, that's where I need to be a little bit worried. So number one, instead of thinking about it as fear or I'm anxious or how do I get rid of this feeling, you have to think about it as, oh, it's game time. It's go time. My body is prepping me for battle. Well, now that we know this, the next thing that we need to do is we need to redirect it. What does that mean? Now that I know that my body is actually preparing me for battle and that I have a level of focus that I normally would not have if I'm just casually showing up for an open roll, I'm going to take that focus and direct it to give me sharper technique. Focus on sharper, quicker response times. Focus on being completely dialed in. Instead of me focusing on, I feel butterflies in my stomach. Oh, my heart is pumping. How do I slow this down? Oh, I hate this feeling. Oh, this is so dreadful. I'm going to go, okay, now this means my technique is going to be even sharper. My reflexes and my timing is going to be even sharper. It's going to be sharper than anything I've experienced when I'm back in the gym. So that's the thing. We are going to redirect it. And the next thing, man, look, be grateful. What do I mean by that? Thank your body. That's number 3. Thank your body for actually prepping you, for actually getting you ready for this difficult task. That's it. Say thank you. And I know it sounds crazy. Why am I thanking you? Man, you should thank your body every morning you wake up. So that's it. As the feeling comes on, reframe it from fear to the body zeroing in on the task at hand. The body's focusing. It's getting you ready. And then redirect it. Actually visualize the adrenaline going into your fingers and your toes and your limbs and sharpening up your technique, sharpening you cognitively, because that is what it's actually doing. You have extreme focus. If you're focused on that and not focused on how dreadful the feeling is, and then thank it, be grateful. I experienced something amazing as a very young man, and I will never forget this experience, man. I remember it like it was yesterday. All right, check this out. This is wild, man. Back when I was in the Marine Corps, I must have been, at the time, I would have been 20 years old because it was 1990. It was Desert Storm. Actually, it was Desert Shield, because before it was Desert Storm, it was Desert Shield. When the actual war started, then they changed the name to Desert Storm. You know, I don't know who comes up with these crazy names, but whatever. And we had gotten all these briefings about Saddam Hussein and the Republican Guard and all this stuff. But the thing that scared me the most were the briefings we received on mustard gas. We were told that Saddam Hussein uses mustard gas in war. The descriptions of what this thing does to the body I don't remember all the details, but I do remember, I mean, some of the details may be escaping me, but I recall it being something like how it like eats up the skin and like just kind of eats the person alive and slowly. And it's like this really painful, agonizing thing. So we were all pretty nervous, man. We were all pretty nervous going to this place. I wasn't a Muslim at the time, by the way, if anyone's curious. And so one night we got our first air raid siren. That's when missiles are incoming and a strike is imminent. At least that's what we thought at the time. Scuds were coming in. Man, I was terrified. I mean, terrified. I don't think I have ever been so afraid before in my life, ever. You talk about adrenaline and all that, it was that times 1,000, bro. I was so afraid that I literally started hyperventilating because I'm thinking, holy crap, we're about to get hit with mustard gas. Now understand that I wasn't a combat Marine. I wasn't a grunt. I wasn't in the infantry. I was an admin. I literally sat at a computer. I was an office worker, but I was in the air wing, and in the air wing, we have helicopters. And helicopters, they go to battle, and you need all of the support staff for that. So we all had to go. In my mind, I was not prepared for combat. I just wasn't. I had basic training, but it's very basic in terms of combat. Yes, I could fire an M16, and I qualified as expert on the M16. That's the highest level when qualifying with that weapon. But shooting on a firing range at a target and shooting on a battlefield are two very different things, man. Two very different things. I was basically an office worker in camis. So while I'm sitting on the cot and I hear that damn air raid siren go off, and I realize that Scuds, probably armed with mustard gas, that those damn things were headed towards our base, I panicked, man. I started hyperventilating, and I'm trying to get my gas mask on, man. I can't get it on. Then I got my mop gear. The mop gear, that's the the protective suit that you wear. That's the protective stuff you put on your body. And we had been through training, man. Boot camp, you go through the gas chamber. Oh, man, it was awful, man. It was absolutely awful. You got snot coming out of your nose, you're coughing, you feel like you're gonna die. And then the drill instructors, because it's boot camp, man, they make you stay in there even longer, man. It was awful, man. And they made us do jumping jacks. So you go into the gas chamber, and look, I'm gonna get to the point. This ties back into the whole reframing the adrenaline thing and the difference that it makes. I promise you, I'll get there. But these details are important. So you stand in the gas chamber, and all the drill instructors, they have their gas masks on, and you walk in with your gas mask on, and you can see the gas, man. The room is hazy and smoky, and everyone's just kind of like nervous as hell, man, because you know this is about to be some pain, right? They made us do jumping jacks. Why? So that we would be huffing and puffing, so that we could suck in more of the gas. Some sadistic bastards, man. So we did like 10 or 20 jumping jacks. I don't remember how many. And then once we finished the jumping jacks, they said, remove the masks. So you remove the mask and you think, man, I'm just gonna hold my breath. And this is what everyone did. Everyone just tried to hold their breath for as long as possible. But they don't start counting down until they see that everyone is breathing. So we held our breath for as long as we could. Then before you know it, man, you had to let that breath out. And that first inhale of that gas, man, that is one of the absolute worst experiences of my life. And you had to stand there. You couldn't be bending over. They made us stand at attention, perfectly still. And people are coughing and, snot coming out. And then eventually they tell you, done and clear. So that means you put your gas mask on and you go through the routine of blowing the gas out of your mask and sealing your mask. And then you come out of the gas chamber, man. You rip the mask off and you're coughing and you can't breathe. You got this horrible itching in your chest and snot going everywhere. It was horrible, man. It was horrible. But the purpose was to teach us how to protect ourselves in that situation. Learn how to don and clear your mask. And then after that, every year, once a year, you have to requalify. You have to requalify with your rifle. So you have to go to the firing range, requalify. And every year you have to go through the gas chamber. But turns out it's a lot easier once you're no longer in boot camp, because you don't have sadistic drill instructors there who are like, enjoying watching you die. You just walk in, take the gas mask off for a few seconds, put it back on and walk out. The point is, I knew very well how to use a gas mask, how to apply it properly, and how to clear it. It's a very simple task. So now I am sitting on that cot in Saudi Arabia. That damn air raid siren is going off. I have forgotten all of my training. And then finally, I don't know how I had the wherewithal to do this. I said, dude, if you don't get your together, you are going to die. And it's going to be miserable. You've gone through this training. You know exactly how to do this. Don and clear this fucking mask. And at that moment, autopilot. Autopilot. I put the mask on. I did the dawn and clear routine. I'm not going to get into all of that, but it's a very simple. You hold the sides of the mask, breathe in, then you push air out. That seals the mask. And it took all of a few seconds. And then I stood up. I started putting on my mop gear. And then I sat on my cot. Gas mask on, full gear, waiting for the all clear. A few minutes later, the all clear came. Either the scud was shot down or it missed. I don't remember. The moral of the story is you're prepared. You have the training. And if you don't redirect that adrenaline, it will destroy you. All of a sudden, your sharp technique is sloppy. It's messy. You forget what to do because you're just focused on the fear and the anxiety. And you forgot that you've prepared for this. You've been training jiu-jitsu for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, whatever the number. You've been working on this presentation for weeks. You prepared for this test for weeks. You've been practicing for this oral exam for weeks. You know the material. In fact, if it wasn't a high stress situation, you would blow right through the presentation. You would blow right through the technique. You would blow right through the oral exam or whatever it is. But because we allowed the adrenaline and the anxiety to get a grip around our neck like a damn rear naked choke, we forget everything in the moment. That's what happened to me in Desert Shield that day. But in that moment, I decided in that moment to redirect all of that anxiety and all of that adrenaline into my technique that I knew upside down and backwards. So when I talk about reframing it, is it fear or is it focus? Once I broke out of that, man, I was so focused. It was like laser focus. Boom, 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 boom. And I was fully protected within a few seconds. Now, funny story. It turns out Scud missiles aren't very accurate. So fast forward like 3 months later, these air raid sirens became so common that it just became annoying. Now it got to the point where the siren would go off and we'd be like, damn, I'm not putting this damn mask on. And then, and like commanding officers would be yelling, Jones, get that damn mask on, you know? So that's it, man. You can use this for anything, not just jiu-jitsu or combat sports. Any situation where you feel tense or anxious, it's an amazing tool. Reframe it. It does not have to be fear. It does not have to be debilitating. It does not have to be paralyzing. It can be, all right, let's go. I'm ready. Now I'm going to be sharper and more focused, and my delivery is going to be even better than it was when I was practicing. And thank you. Thank you for preparing me. That's it, man. That's your framework. But there is one thing that I want to caution you about. This isn't something that you do the morning of your competition or the morning of whatever your event is. This is something that requires a lot of practice. This is something that I've been practicing for years. I just didn't have a name for it. As I'm approaching competition, I'm thinking about this now. I already know I'm going to feel that rush of adrenaline. I already know. I don't call it nervousness. I don't call it butterflies. I call it what it is. I call it my body getting me ready for a potential life and death situation. Because it's rare, but you could die in a jiu-jitsu competition. You could definitely suffer a serious injury that would keep you out of any kind of training for several months. That happens a lot. So you have to start thinking about that weeks in advance. You have to practice it even when you're not preparing for a competition, man. You have to see yourself that morning feeling that stuff and framing it properly. Otherwise, You're going to be like that 20-year-old sitting on the cot, practically crapping in his pants because he's forgotten how to do simple, basic techniques that he'd done hundreds of times up to that point. That adrenaline rush, that anxiety is your friend. That thing is riding shotgun with you. Give it the due respect that it deserves. It's an alchemy, baby. It's an alchemy of struggle.